All right, let's dive into one of the most, let's say, provocative ideas from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. We're talking about law number 6, and it's a radical one. Court attention at all costs. You know, its whole argument is that in the game of power, being good or right, well, that's way less important than simply being seen.
So, the law kicks off with this really brutal premise. It says the world doesn't really run on quiet merit. Nope, it runs on spectacle. And it suggests that there's a fate out there that is way, way worse than being hated or even attacked.
And boom, there it is, the punchline. To be unseen, to be overlooked, that's to be powerless. It's basically like being wiped off the game board entirely. I mean, think about it. If nobody even knows you exist, you can't influence anyone, you can't lead, and you sure can't win.
Okay, so this is the big question, right? If being ignored is death, then visibility is life. So how in the world do you capture it? Well, the law gives us two primary weapons. Let's start with the most audacious one. This first weapon. This is the loud, completely unapologetic approach. It's all about surrounding your name with the sensational, even the scandalous. The idea is that any notoriety gets people talking about you, and that conversation, well, that's power.
And the absolute master of this was P.T. Barnum. So early in his career, his boss starts a rumor that Barnum is some infamous murderer. An angry mob literally almost lynches him. But guess what happened that night? The circus was totally packed, and his boss gave him the lesson that would define his entire life. Attention, even the really negative kind, is a currency.
And you can just see from this timeline how he built an entire empire on that one idea. It starts with a near-death experience that just sells a ton of tickets. From there, he just keeps escalating. He creates mystery out of nothing with his brickman trick, and he even starts attacking his own exhibits with fake rumors just to spark a debate. He got it. Controversy creates conversation, and conversation creates customers.
You know, the genius here is just how simple it is. The bricks meant absolutely nothing. The man's walk was totally pointless. But the fact that the whole act was just so inexplicable, that was a magnet for human curiosity. People just could not stand not knowing what was going on, and that need to solve the puzzle led them right through Barnum's front door.
So here's the key takeaway from that. For Barnum, there was no such thing as bad publicity. Being slandered meant his name was in the papers. Being attacked meant he was relevant. The worst possible thing that could happen wasn't failing, it was being forgotten.
But okay, what if you don't want to be a loud showman? What if that's not your style? The law has another path to the spotlight, a much more subtle one. This is the path of the enigma, the person who attracts attention not by being loud, but by being unreadable. Just look at Mata Hari. She shows up in Paris, a poor Dutch woman with basically no future. So what does she do? She invents one. On one side, you see this incredible myth she created. On the other, the kind of mundane reality. She wasn't some exotic princess. She was just a really ambitious woman who understood a fundamental truth. What people can't figure out, they can't forget.
And here's the psychology of why this works so well. See, mystery makes you seem way more profound than you actually might be. Because you don't say much, people start projecting their own fantasies and ideas onto you. You put them in the position of trying to solve you, and that keeps their attention locked right on you. You can even see this tactic used in warfare. The great general Hannibal. He found himself completely trapped by the Romans. I mean, his scouts had blundered, there was no way out. Any conventional army would have been absolutely destroyed. But Hannibal didn't fight force with more force. He fought it with mystery. He tied torches to the horns of thousands of oxen and sent them stampeding up the hills in the middle of the night. The Romans, they couldn't explain what they were seeing. Was it a ghost army? Was it demons? And in that confusion and absolute terror, they just abandoned their posts, and Hannibal's army simply walked right out. He defeated them with a spectacle they just couldn't explain.
But, and this is a huge but, this is a dangerous game. Courting attention has its limits, and if you misjudge them, it can be catastrophic. You have to know when to seek the spotlight, and just as important, when to step away from it.
So for this, we have to look at the cautionary tale of Lola Montez. She was a master at getting attention. Now, the scene is this very high society event in London, and in the audience is pretty much the most powerful person in the world at the time, Queen Victoria.
Now, the protocol here was absolute. Ironclad. Nobody, and I mean nobody, makes an entrance after the queen. It's a fundamental rule of hierarchy. You have to respect the gravitational pull of power. You simply do not upstage the ultimate source of that power.
But Lola Montez, She made a fatal miscalculation. She tried to pull her old trick, arriving late, making this huge scandalous entrance to steal the spotlight. She was directly challenging the queen for the entire room's attention. A huge gamble.
And the result? It was devastating. The queen simply, completely ignored her. And everyone else in the audience followed Victoria's lead. In that single moment, Lola Montez was rendered invisible. By overplaying her hand and challenging a secure power, she wasn't attacked, she was erased. Her career in England was over, just like that.
So what's the big takeaway from all this?
Well, it's that power isn't just about what you do. It's about the performance. It's about how you manage that spotlight.
Ultimately, we've seen two main paths you can take to get into that spotlight, right? You've got the Barnum method, be loud, be controversial, and create constant novelty. Or you've got the Mata Hari method, be ambiguous, be unreadable, and just let people's imaginations do all the work for you. But both paths are designed to lead to the exact same place, the center of attention.
And that really brings us to the core judgment of this law. Society is a stage. And from this perspective, things like value, brilliance, hard work, they count for absolutely nothing if they're performed in the dark. Visibility, that's the ultimate currency.
Which leaves us with a final and I think really pressing question for our own time. In this age of just endless content and constant distraction, where everyone is fighting for a tiny sliver of the spotlight, has this law become more relevant than ever? Is the ultimate form of power today simply being the person, the idea, or the brand that cannot be scrolled past, cannot be tuned out, and is simply impossible to ignore?